Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the G-Shock Watcher. It is a rainy day here in Saturday in the afternoon, and today what I wanted to do was take some time to talk through some of the resin bands used on G-Shock watches, because I was talking just specifically about this absolutely glorious band watch and its band, the MRG Frogman, which is a very, very comfortable band. Now, funny enough, it's actually not a resin band. I thought it was, but it's actually rubber. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But this was my first sort of journey into MRG watches, and the quality of this particular watch is absolutely spectacular. You can have a look at the video I did last week on that. But it got me thinking about these different resin bands and the materials, even though this was a rubber band. And somebody also said in the comments they would love to understand what the sort of the comparison is in terms of comfort, the watch itself if you're wearing it all day. I can absolutely attest that this watch is super comfortable, but it is super expensive as well. So I'm going to dig into 4 different types of resin bands and show you some of the watches that I actually own and give you a sense of what I think about them from a comfort point of view. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, if you do enjoy the videos that I'm producing, please like and subscribe. I really enjoy spending some time with you and sharing some ideas and thoughts, and your support makes it all the more worthwhile. So, with that, let's get started. Right, so before we get started, the watch I'm wearing today is a G-Shock King. I love the G-Shock King on a weekend. I particularly love the colors of this particular watch. Very big, very chunky, very comfortable. And I probably should check out what sort of band it actually is. I guess I'll do that as a wrap up and we'll have a look in between video edits. But for the purpose of this video, this is actually quite tough to research because it's not necessarily clear on websites and manuals as to what the type of resin materials actually use. So I did employ a little bit of AI here, a bit of Microsoft, a bit of Google, and then sort of double checked it with where their sources were coming from. But it's the best information I could sort of pull together to sort of give you an understanding of the different types of resin materials used in these different watches. I have these watches here in front of me. We're also going to be utilizing Shockbase just so you have a good clear view of the watch, because I know sometimes showing it in front of you here isn't necessarily the super clearest. And we're going to go sort of from different resin bands and then go into different types of cost levels so you can sort of see the costs as they go up. So first off, we want to start off with, and I need to refer to a table a little bit off screen here for the research, the standard, the resin, the polyurethane band. And I've got 3 watches here which I want to go ahead and actually show you. The first one is this one, and this is a very unique watch regardless. This is the DW5600 BWP2. It's the porcelain watch, and this is a watch which uses the resin standard polyurethane band. Very smooth band, relatively pliable, a little bit stiff. It's not a uncomfortable watch to wear, and I think that's credit to the sort of the height of the watch. It's not a very large watch. The band itself is pretty comfortable. On the back here, you sort of got this spacing, so you get a little bit of separation from the skin. But this is your standard polyurethane band. Now, I say standard, but it is a little bit different, right? This is a band which is sort of formulated very, very uniquely. You'll never get another band like this in G-Shock or anywhere, because what it is when the band is actually formed, it's sort of swirled with the blue and the white color. And that gives it that sort of very unique blue-white porcelain look. So each band is very, very unique from that point of view. It's a great band, lightweight, easy to go ahead and actually wear. This particular band itself, if I jump over here, is on this particular watch, the blue-white porcelain. So the DW5600 BWP2. Now, it goes for around about 16,000 yen. So it's not super expensive. It's a nice watch. It's a fairly unique watch to be able to get, especially for those particular colors. And you know what? You can actually wear this on the weekend and it doesn't look out of place. It's a very nice watch, and people like to comment on it. The other watches in that same vein, if we go over to the next one, it's this particular watch, the mixtape watch. This was a special release, and I got this from a friend in Japan, a GA700 MT1A9. Very, very cool watch. Very bold on the colors, the yellows, the blacks, all those different things. Inverted display. It's not a tough solar watch, but the band is very similar, and it's going to be a little bit hard to sort of show you, but you can sort of see the ridges on each of the bands there, how they sort of look. So the design is very much the same. It has the same sort of nodes or sort of rivs, I don't know what you call it, ridges in the actual watch itself. So if we show you that one there, you can see the same sort of thing. This one feels like a much thicker band. Again, it's relatively pliable. You know, if you sort of take these watches and you sort of give them a bit of a squeeze, they're not too bad. This one's a little bit softer than this one. This one's a little bit tougher. But again, it's probably going to come down to how much you wear it. But this one here is a little bit more stiffer. But again, not uncomfortable, and I guess it's because it also sits on your hand pretty well from that point of view. So that one was 17,000 yen for that price. Now, the last one that I want to talk about from a polyurethane point of view is this one, and I think this one is kind of unique. This is the GD350 GB1. It was a 10th anniversary release model, and I kind of think it was like the second G-Shock I purchased after sort of buying G-Shocks. Very, very nice watch. Same sort of thing, polyurethane again. But again, this one sort of feels even softer and even more pliable. And of course, it comes down to the pressure. Like this one feels very stiff. Okay, it's a very stiff sort of watch. This one feels a little bit softer. It's probably more akin to these two watches here. These ones are probably a little bit softer. You can see we're doing some very scientific testing here, but this is a very nice watch to wear. It's very, from a polyurethane point of view, it's a very comfortable watch. You're not going to sort of feel tired on the arm or anything like that. But this watch does have something which is unique, which is these little wings here. And these wings actually help to enhance the comfort. If I can sort of put it there, enhance the comfort on the watch. And so they sort of sit on top of your hand and sort of mold over the shape of your arm. It's a very good feature, which actually makes this watch feel a lot more comfortable than some of the other ones. But again, polyurethane, it's got the sort of ridges on it, fairly pliable. It's not a watch that you're going to sort of complain about wearing most of the day, right? Where I see the challenges of some of these watches, it's not necessarily the resin band sometimes. Sometimes it's the thickness of the watch itself. And so if you're taking off jackets and those sorts of things, you'll sort of feel that bumping. But relatively comfortable resin band watches from that point of view. So that's the standard sort of resin, standard polyurethane bands from that angle. So let's now take a look at the next ones, which are the carbon fiber insert resin bands. So in the next part, this is the carbon fiber insert resin. This is where we start to see some more of the more classic G-Shocks coming in, the ones that are sort of iconic. I mean, many G-Shock watches look iconic in style, but these are some of the models which ultimately you would have heard about if you sort of follow any sort of G-Shock watches or recognize the brands. The first one is my first G-Shock watch. This is the GAB 2100, the very classic black on black. If I switch over here, the GAB 2100 1A1. And this was a watch which I picked up in Tokyo on a trip from work, and it's a beautiful watch, and I honestly don't wear it enough. I think I should wear it sort of more. Like, it's the foundation of what people sort of call the Casio. The thing that I sort of sometimes get angsty about is the fact it's an inverted display. It's not the most easiest watch to go ahead and actually wear. But I think if you probably had a positive display, it would probably stand out a little bit more. And not in a good way. Like, it would kind of be obvious the digital watch part of it. So the black on black is a very, very nice watch from that point of view. It is a classic. I've never gone ahead and modified this, and I don't want to modify it because it is the first watch that I actually have. The band itself on the back, very similar to the ones we sort of saw before. It's got that sort of ridging on there, but this is a carbon fiber insert resin. And so we start getting into sort of the lightness, the shock resistance for the actual watches itself, gets into a little bit more comfortable fit. I mean, if we look at the bend of this one, it actually is a lot more flexible from that point of view. So it's a little bit more of a softer band in this particular sense. But again, the sort of thin profile, soft band, very comfortable, very, very easy watch to wear. Now, this same band is employed by other iconic watches. I mean, the GA B2100 or GA 2100 is a very iconic watch from G-Shock, but the other iconic watch, which also employs the same band, is this one. And you'll know this is definitely one of my favorite watches. This is one of my Rangemans. The whole sort of feature-packed set of watches. This one here, now we're starting to get a little bit pricey. We're at the 55,000 yen, and sort of, you're getting up to around about $500, $600 US or Sing, but we're a lot pricier than what we were in the standard polyurethane bands, right? So when we start looking at comparisons between, let's say this particular watch, where we go here, this particular watch and this particular watch, this one is on the higher price side. And this one's unique because it's got the black and yellow. So it's two color tones in the actual band itself. And of course the glorious Rangeman logo on the back. But this also uses a carbon fiber or carbon fiber insert resin band. So, again, you can wear this all day. It's super comfortable from that point of view. If we look at that sort of flexibility, it's a little bit stiffer than, say, if we took the GAB 2100. Like, this one will bend in a little bit more. This one's a bit harder, but I kind of think that's because it's got two layers in the actual band itself for that ruggedness and that vibration resistance. But still, not terrible in terms of comfort from that point of view. You can sort of wear this most of the day. It's fairly generous in terms of the spacing for your wrist. So that's pretty good from that angle. The last one, that's a carbon fiber inserts. And I was kind of surprised. I actually thought that this particular watch would perhaps be maybe a more premium type band, like getting close to what we're talking about with MRGs. And it's this one. It's the MTG Dragon, which is the watch that the wife let buy as a joke. And as soon as she sort of mentioned it, I went ahead and slammed the credit card down and got it. But the watch band or the resin band itself is another carbon fiber insert, but the design is much different. Like if we go back, I'm going to bring these ones out again. I guess every band kind of looks a little bit different, but if you look at the smaller ones, the sort of GABs, like it's one line for the actual, I guess, the clasp and things like that. When we go to the bigger form factor watches, right, it starts to become a double pin. I don't know what you want to sort of say, but it's double, right? So if we look at all of these bigger ones, even if I go back to the standard polyurethane, those bigger ones have two. This one has two. The Rangeman has two. When we look at the smaller ones, so if we look at the porcelain, it's got one. The GAB 2100, it's also got one. If I get that into focus, right? Even the G-Shock King, because of size, it's got dual. And so where you have the dual bands, the band is a little bit wider, right? So if we look at these ones side by side, they're similar in width, but then we sort of add in a Rangeman. How do I get this into the camera? The Rangeman's going to be a little bit bigger, right, from that point of view. So the bands tend to be somewhat consistent between them, but when we get to an MTG, you get a lot more variance. And so it's a single pin band, but you can look at the band itself, it's a little bit different. It actually feels more rubbery. It does have flex, but I say it's a harder flex, but I'd also say it's because the thickness of the band is probably bigger. So if I take out, that GAB 2100 and look at the thickness of that band there, tough to sort of get the focus on that one. And then compare that to the thickness of the MTG. This is a much thicker band from that point of view. So it's a heavier watch. It's a bit more stiffer on the band, but it uses the carbon fiber technology in the actual band itself. The one thing that I also find with some of these watches, especially some of the watches with the big one, it's not necessarily the comfort of the band, but maybe I'm a strange person, but just here on my hand, there's a little bit of a bump here. And so when I'm wearing these watches for multiple days in a row, I sometimes sort of feel it bumping up against that part of my wrist. And so that part of my wrist at the top part there starts to get a little bit sore, sort of just up here, gets a little bit rubbed and red. But from a comfort point of view, for wearing it on a day or so, and then you go back to something that's sort of simpler, a little bit easier, it's okay. It sits together very, very well from that point of view. So, those are your carbon fiber. Where's the other one? The Rangeman here. Those are your carbon fiber insert watches. I can't even get my hands right to sort of do that properly. I could never be a watch model. So those ones there, those are our carbon fiber insert watches. The MRG on that side there. Hello, MRG. Bad focus. The Rangeman, the glorious Rangeman, and then the GAB 2100, the black on black. Very hard to get that one into focus for some reason, but we know what we're talking about from that point of view. Now, as I sort of said, the MTG is in a different price range, right? So if we go over to the MTG here, we've gone from 55,000 yen to 154,000 yen for this particular watch. So we're looking at a watch here which is 3 times the cost of this Rangeman. So much more quality, and like I say, while the band is the same, I think the construction of the band, the thickness of the band is much more solid, much more resilient, even though the other one was a Rangeman. So that's the carbon fiber insert resin. Now I'm going to slip in one more before I move to the other set of bands, because people talked about the Mudmans and the Mudmasters. There's this particular watch as well, and this is the GPW 1000, a watch I picked up recently. This is the Skymaster cockpit, and I think this is a fantastic watch, super comfortable, and I think part of it is because the watch is so big. It's like the king. It sort of sits on your wrist very, very nicely. Now, this isn't a carbon fiber insert resin. You can see I have to read this right. This is called resin with carbon fiber insert hybrid band. So this is the research that I found. And so you kind of scratch your head and you say, well, what is the difference between, say, a Rangeman, right? A Rangeman which has sort of carbon fiber insert resin, and this one is resin with carbon fiber insert hybrid. And the best description I sort of had or could get is that this one, the GPW, is more akin to sort of carbon fiber armor. Like it's built to almost be tougher, and this one's a little bit more for comfort and flexibility. So, which is interesting because you always think about the Rangeman as being the extreme watch in this particular situation, but they're saying that this resin band, the way it's actually been designed to be a resin with carbon fiber insert hybrid, is more akin to something that's even tougher from that point of view. So interesting. Again, it's a fairly tough band, but again, it could be because of the size or the depth of the band itself. Two pins on there, and on the inside, you can sort of see it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if that's really the carbon fibers we can actually sort of see, but it is also a very sort of stiff watch, but it's not one which you can't wear. I wore this for an entire flight from Singapore to Europe, and it was fairly comfortable to be able to go ahead and actually wear from that point of view. So not a bad watch. So those are the carbon fiber watches. And so from here, we now move into the next area, which is where we start talking about some of the Mudmans and the Mudmasters. Okay, so let's start off in the Mudmans and the Mudmasters. Now, the Mudmans and the Mudmasters, they're not resin, they're bioresin watches. And this is that sort of environmental commitment that G-Shock actually has as they start getting into these sorts of Master of G for land and those sorts of things. So your Mudman, they do lots of collaborations with Earthwatch and things like that. So they also want to showcase, I guess, renewable technologies in their watches. The Mudmasters as well, really about being outdoors and in the jungle, the bush, the forest, wherever you actually are. So they employ bio-based resin. Now, bio-based resin, as I understand it, sort of comes from organic sources such as castor seeds and corn. So, as I sort of say, it's an environmentally friendly choice. And so the two examples I actually have of that is this one, which is also just a really, really big favorite, the GW9501KJ8. Let me switch over here. This is the Blackstone Fish Owl watch. And so it's really there meant to be able to go ahead and emulate the vision of the owl's eye and how that sort of looks. It's got that dual LCD display, which is just super cool. I never use it, but when I do remember to use it, I think it's a super cool feature from that point of view. And this actually uses the bioresin. And again, this is one of your thicker bands. Right now, again, I would sort of say that this watch is built for durability. It's a very tough band from that point of view. And so when you're wearing it all day, you may tend to feel it a little bit. It has a lot of stiffness on it. Its saving grace in this is similar to the watch we looked at before, the GA700MT, which was, to find all my watches here again, this particular watch. Right now, what this has, remember I talked about these little mobile wings that sort of sit there and sort of gently caress your wrist as you put that on. This has something similar, but it doesn't have that same sort of flexibility. It's kind of there. You can see those same sorts of things, and so that sort of molds into the back of the watch itself, so it makes it feel a little bit comfortable on your arm. It's also dual from that point of view. Feels kind of the same on the back, on the ridges, but it is a stiffer watch, and so good to wear for a day, good to wear for maybe 2 days, but if you're wearing it for the whole week, maybe you might sort of feel it from that point of view. The big daddy, or the big brother of the Mudman, is obviously this one here, which is the Mudmaster. And this Mudmaster also has the bioresin. It also has a little bit of that winged protection on the back to make it a little bit smoother. What I will say is that this band feels a little less stiff than this one. So if I go through and sort of do that flex, this one, the Mudman, feels a lot stiffer than the Mudmaster. The Mudmaster band is a little bit softer, and well, you are paying a bit more of a premium price. I mean, the Mudmaster is sort of focused more on the analog displays. The Mudman is focused more on the digital display, like super easy to read from a clarity point of view, super robust from that angle. And between the two, the prices get comparatively different, right? So your Mudman is 64,900, and then your Mudmaster is 132, so almost twice the price from that angle. And so the materials you're sort of seeing here, this is a fairly comfortable watch to wear. I did wear this watch in China on a vacation, and again, one of the things that we were doing, it was wintertime, we're sort of taking fairly heavy jackets on and off and on and off and on and off. And this one, I particularly found that issue with the bump on the wrist here, and every time I sort of took the jacket off, it would bump that watch forward from that point of view. And it was this sort of hardness on the actual watch itself, which was actually impacting the skin, and it started to get sort of irritating from that point of view. So the band itself is fairly comfortable, but it's not without its faults. Now, what I will tell you with all of these different watches, it's really, really interesting. The bands themselves aren't necessarily uncomfortable. It might be more the actual watch, the case of the watch itself and how it actually works. But one challenge you tend to find with some of these resin bands is because they don't have that pliability, you tend to find yourself either putting the watch on a tighter notch on your wrist, and you might feel after a day, or if you put it one back, it might feel a little bit loose. You kind of have to get lucky with it. So when you buy the watch, you've got to make sure you try it on and sort of feel, okay, is this the right size? Is it going to sort of shift around a little bit? This one's sitting actually pretty well from that point of view. You know, it's not necessarily mobile. Do I have it on super tight? No, it's actually a good size for my particular wrist. But if I were to take this off and let's say go over to, well, let's try the MTG, right? If I put the MTG on and strap this guy on, when I sort of put it on, I've kind of got it there, but it's a little bit loose, okay? So if I go one more and give it a little bit tighter in the actual wrist department, it's a little bit better, but you know, you'll start to sort of feel the actual pull on it. And I guess if you wear it consistently enough, it will give you a little bit more give. It'll be a little bit more comfortable. But you've got to try them for yourself, right? Those are the things you need to go ahead and actually do. But the Bioresin on the Mudmaster, actually not too bad. Quite pliable, easy to go ahead and work with. So the last one then is we get to our MRG. My favorite, the most expensive one, the MRG watch, right? This glorious piece of engineering. And this band is not resin. This is a rubber band. In fact, they call it a high-performance synthetic rubber, specifically chosen for its exceptional resistance to UV light, chemicals, and extreme temperatures, making it ideal for professional diving watches. And so this rubber itself is just absolutely crazy comfortable, right? I mean, out of all of the G-Shock watches I have, I can't complain about them, any of them sort of being uncomfortable as such. But from a touch and from a feel point of view, this rubber is absolutely spectacular. I mean, let's look at the pliability. Like if I switch it over, I'm barely touching it, and it's super easy to do. Like I'm barely giving it any sort of strength from that angle. If I come over here to the Mudmaster and do the same thing, you know, that same pressure probably gets me down to there. And this is not special effects or anything. This is kind of what that looks like. If we go over to some of the standard polyurethane ones, this one's not terrible. It's got a bit more give from that angle. If we go to the range mount, sorry, the King's not too bad either, but it's hard to sort of say. It's without feeling this watch, you can't get a sense of how much different the rubber actually is on this particular band versus all of the resin bands, right? You pay for the premium experience, and that's what this watch actually gives you. The MRG Frogman from that point of view. This is really, if you said to me, Matt, what is the most comfortable watch you've actually worn? I'm going to tell you it's the MRG. This Frogman MRG, this rubber is really, really good. But there's no reason why, I guess, you couldn't go ahead and try and look at maybe modifying some of these watches, right? You could go ahead and potentially modify, you know, a range man if you wanted to, right? The screws are actually there. But of course, you might compromise some of the infrastructure on that one. The infrastructure? I'm not too sure what the right term is. It might be interesting to try this with, you know, the GAB 2100. Maybe what I might do is actually take an older GAB 2100 or a GAB 2100 I've already modified, and maybe look at modifying that with a rubber watch as well. Rubber band. Now, of course, G-Shock also has other bands as well that they also use. You've got some ones that are actually canvas. You've got the bracelet ones. The bracelet ones are obviously going to be a little bit tougher on the wrist because they don't have any flex at all. The resin ones are interesting. Not resin. The material-based watches are interesting, and maybe we'll have a look at some of those to see if they're any different from that point of view. But that's the great thing about G-Shock. You've got so many different choices you can actually look at in terms of different stylings, different colors, different bands, different faces, analog and digital, and that's what keeps me back at G-Shock itself. I will tell you, when I said to my wife I wanted to spend this much money on the Frogman, she said, wouldn't you go ahead and actually spend it on a different brand? And I thought about it for a second, but kind of went, I love G-Shock. I love what it represents. You know, one day you can be wearing a blue-white porcelain sort of watch. The next day you can be going for a range band. I'm terrible at holding this the right way around. You might go for something fairly flashy with the MTGs, or just go for something that looks so good like this on the MRG. So lots of interesting experiences, but I will tell you, from all of these different bands, all the different technologies, they are good watches. You'll just have to find yourself sort of getting used to them. My best bet is absolutely the expensive Frogman. But second to that, if I really sort of said that the couple of watches I would sort of say from a comfort point of view, you know, this one here, the GA700, this is actually a fairly comfortable watch to wear. It's fairly pliable. The wings are nice in terms of their movement to be able to make it feel comfortable. That's a great watch. The GAB 2100, also a very nice watch, fairly comfortable to wear. And I would also say the Sky Master Cockpit with the armor type wristband. That's a very comfortable watch to wear as well. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for spending some time with me. Probably a longer video, but I wanted to sort of go through some of these different watches and show you the different resin technology being utilized, and maybe it helps you to not only make a choice, but take your time when looking at the watches and sort of really get a feel for what that band feels like on your wrist, because when you buy it, you're going to be wearing it a lot. With that, ladies and gentlemen, again, as always, please share a like, share a comment, subscribe. I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.